Welcome to Gallant Conversations. Gallant is a business-to-business consultancy specializing in industrial innovation.
We drive growth for our clients through strategies and insights in brand management and strategic communications.
If you're in an industry focused on progress at the macro level, we're here to facilitate a conversation, starting now.
So we got Brandy over here, over at Gallant's office, and we had a pretty big week the other week.
It was last week, James. That's it. It was last week. Yes.
It was a whirlwind. So we had 2 clients with some big news being announced, and I think our team did a pretty darn good job.
They did an excellent job. I'm so proud of Libby and Chris and you and Casey, and y'all all rallied, and I just hope that that they feel as supported as we feel vested in them.
So let's talk a little bit about the clients. So we had a geothermal drilling company, GA Drilling, and then also Cemvita, a synthetic biology, bio company, announcing some big news. So kind of walk me through last week.
Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about GA Drilling. I think it's one of those things. It's kind of been a long journey, and then all of a sudden, at the last moment, there was a sprint. And so, basically, our client, GA Drilling, was in negotiations with Petrobras for months, and the whole tenet behind what they're going to be doing with Petrobras is they're developing and delivering alongside Cemvita, which is the innovation hub of Petrobras. They're developing a model and the all associated hardware and systems to reduce operational or to increase, I guess a better way to say it, to increase operational efficiency in highly complex wells offshore. And people know GA Drilling as a geothermal company. And so we really tried to figure out messaging around that, because the GA Drilling is absolutely committed to ensuring that everybody has access to very, very, very clean baseload, constant power, and they've kind of really put a stake in the ground around geothermal. Petrobras, especially as it pertains to this particular technology, is focused on operational efficiency, operational excellence in oil and gas. And so those are very different things. And we would be having kind of a much more challenging conversation if we would have maybe put this release out 18 months ago. But now I think after decades and decades of pointing fingers and wasting time, in my opinion, about trying to figure out how to move ahead beyond a hydrocarbon economy, we're not only starting to realize that the technologies and the operators and the talent that is concentrated in oil and gas operations, specifically in upstream, are absolutely critical in delivering in the short term the power that we need to keep the lights on, to be able to, provide processing power, to be able to create the innovations that new energy needs. And there's a particular application in geothermal. So quite literally, you can take these brilliant people that know their way around a reservoir and transition them into geothermal. So that conversation was a thesis that I think back a million years ago when I was doing Energy People Connect, that was a thesis that that company had. And now I think it's becoming more mainstream, and I think that GA Drilling is at the forefront of that. And part of that is because they picked a really great partner. So one thing I don't know if everybody knows outside of Latin America about Brazil, but they get almost 80% of their residential power supply in alternative energy. They have been at the forefront of biofuels. They've been at the forefront of operational excellence. They've been at the forefront of ultra deep drilling innovations for my entire career. And so I think that Petrobras and GA Drilling aligning makes so much sense, because they don't just see kind of that short-term oil is bad, gas is bad. No, they see kind of a much more long-term, much more pragmatic view. So I expect to see amazing things in the short term, in the medium term, and certainly in the long term from this.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot of things kind of coming up in terms of what you were talking about with the Brazil play and the macroeconomics and the kind of the global sustainability push and the energy transition. So I kind of want to bring it back down and talk a little bit more and get your insight on the Gallant team working with GA Drilling to help support that message and what it looked like on the inside of the agency.
Absolutely. So one thing that I thought about really since this deal was a sparkle in somebody's eye is that, Petrobras was the right partner or is the right partner for GA Drilling, because they're culturally aligned in terms of energy transition, in terms of pragmatism, in terms of really leveraging deep technology to push forward on a goal. And I think that that's something that's so important for us whenever we look at, how we can support our clients. Is there alignment? Do we truly believe in what our clients are doing? Are we kind of like-minded in terms of, kind of the hustle mentality, but also like a commitment to being at the cutting edge of things, like those things, or are we more interested in playing safe and tried and true? And I think I have a tendency to move more towards that kind of like high risk, high reward, but there's got to be a nice balance. And that's something that I think is very, very important. Now, with regard to Petrobras and GA Drilling, the thing that was great about it is that we started thinking strategically about how to message this very early on. So we had a certain level of transparency with our clients. They knew that they could share this with us and that it wasn't going anywhere. And that enabled us to really dig into that partnership. And I mean, I don't know how many hours I spent poring over, public documents related to Petrobras, really looking at their positioning around sustainability, looking at kind of the long-term ramifications of technological adoptions or transfer of technology across different sectors and how that felt or how that moved forward. So, we had some time to really pour into that, and you can see hints of it, like in retrospect, you can see hints of it in other subtle messaging that we did to sort of plant those seeds. So what basically happened, and this is something that, Petrobras is a huge company with a lot of moving parts. And so we knew that it was coming down the pipeline, but we did not know if it was going to happen in December. We did not know if it was going to happen. We thought it was going to happen and we didn't know when it was going to happen. So it was like, I think we had a meeting on Friday and then we had another meeting on Thursday no. Gosh, no, cut that. We had a meeting on Friday, and then by Monday, the news, the contract was signed, and we were ready to go pretty much in many ways because we had done a lot of that pre-work. So I felt like we had the opportunity to to plan.
I think that's an important bit on the client side and stuff as well, right? When we have that, as you described, that relationship with the client, and it's just that interconnectedness, and our values are aligned, and we're able to really support them 100% all the way and be prepared in that scenario, right?
Well, it's a headspace issue too, right? Our clients are essentially buying part of our headspace and our advocacy. So what that looks like is, again, I don't know how many non-billable hours or whatever that I spent just thinking about this because because it's important, number one, and number two, when you've got that alignment, because I really care. I mean, I want this to be right. And so that, I think, enabled us, because we'd been talking about it for a while, it enabled us to support them in the way that I think they deserve to be supported, because they're doing really big, powerful things that I think everyone eventually will benefit from.
And what do you think this news is going to lead to? Not anything pertaining to us, but more so GA Drilling. What does this partnership enable? How does it really kind of, cement them in their near and long-term goals? I know we've touched on it, but let's get a little bit more pointed with it.
So I think that this, number one, it validates their thesis, and that's always so important with deep tech. So there's that, and then, so that's very specifically, it's this idea that if you can absolutely maximize ultra deep drilling.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, ultra deep drilling.
And let's just clarify, right? There's ultra deep, then there's deep, and then there's shallow.
Yeah. So we're talking about 4 miles.
4 kilometers down.
Sorry, kilometers.
We have a really cool little graphic that our design team put together. Maybe this is a good moment to maybe filter it into that segment. But, I mean, just kind of showing the inner workings of the earth, the inner, outer mantle, crust, and then all the way up to the surface, and what that means in the grand scheme of things with geothermal. Yes, it's deriving its heat from the inner core and the earth itself, but it's really just a millimeter in terms of what geothermal is capturing in terms of the heat, right? Some people get kind of freaked out, you're drilling down there and, you're going to...
Don't think about it and watch The Matrix or something don't do that. But it's truly, the earth is such an abundant source of power, and it's just there, and we're just standing on it, and we can, and it's truly renewable. It continually regenerates. And so, so this idea that you can go and actually harvest this power without hurting the earth is fantastic. And whenever you look at all of the challenges associated with drilling for hydrocarbon, those guys have just done a very incredible job, in my mind's eye, sorry to use that expression, of really solving some very tough technological challenges, high pressure, high temperature, high H2S, challenging environments, harsh environments, and taking that transfer of knowledge and moving it towards geothermal just makes so much sense. So what does that mean to GA Drilling? Again, it validates their thesis in many ways. It also enables them to use a proven playground, if you will, to discover. So I feel like by contributing in the short term to making oil and gas cleaner, making oil and gas more efficient, making the delivery of oil and gas more sustainable. And that word is overused often, and I'm telling you that in this particular instance, it's a fact. It will be more sustainable and more operationally clean and efficient because of this technology. It enables not only through research, through resources, and through proving things out in the field, which is the big deal, right? With all commercialization, it will enable them to deliver faster on geothermal.
Yeah, so that's another short-term, near-term goal that this partnership helps align them with, and potentially, future funding efforts for, securing more funding in their later venture rounds and all that bit. And, I think the other thing that you're touching on, and I just want to kind of point to mention and hit it a little bit more on the nose, is, you're talking about how Petrobras recognizes GA Drilling as, that pragmatic approach to environmental stewardship and sustainability and that energy transition, where it's a complementary piece to Petrobras. It really kind of supports their hydrocarbon, oil and gas efforts, but also positions them in a nice way to incorporate more geothermal in the future. And the thing that I kind of wanted to bring up and just have you kind of touch on is, geothermal, the implementation and the adoption of it, at least here in the state of Texas, there's an easy workforce transition. Right?
Absolutely.
And then also there's a lot
it is like, it's magical how perfect it is. Yes.
So you're not just creating an opportunity to, and I mean, I guess you really hit, the three pillars of sustainability in a sense, right? Whereas, you're helping preserve the environment, you're helping protect the planet, and you're helping support the people that are living on it with employment opportunities and stuff of that nature. And then, the other kind of aspect to preserving the planet, protecting the planet, environmental stewardship approach is, this is something that I kind of like to latch on to, which is the state of Texas, ranks 6th in coal-fired power plants that are active. And it's come from my understanding through the engagement with GA Drilling, you can retrofit an existing coal-fired power plant to support geothermal efforts, whether it be shallow, deep, or ultra deep. And again, Nico will probably throw in the little graphic to kind of help explain what those three mean or help visualize it. But so and again, it's an easy transition for the coal-fired power plants that are, everyone I think is in agreement that that's not necessarily the future that we want. And then on top of that, you got everybody that's in the oil and gas sector looking for future opportunities in kind of a sustainable clean energy world. And geothermal is an intriguing bit, right? There's no upscaling and stuff of that. It's a very fluid and dynamic progression, just like how our Earth acts as well, in a sense. So I don't know. I mean, I think you're on to something. It's absolutely, it is evolutionary. It is taking resources of the future and pulling resources of the past and putting those things together to create momentum and to accelerate progress. Absolutely, no question. And I don't know if that's a good transitional period to then kind of jump into the Cemvita bit. But I mean, you're talking about evolution and you're talking about a future, and I couldn't think of a more exciting future, without with Cemvita in the mix, right? So let's kind of...
Yeah, so the thing that I really like about those two clients in particular is that whenever we're thinking about energy, just the future that would either have less hydrocarbon or no hydrocarbon, and I'm, and I see that as, something that I don't know when that's going to happen because of all the data centers and all of our just extreme acceleration and need for power. But, it's two things, right? It's number one, feedstock, and number two, baseload. And so when I think about Cemvita, they have the feedstock side of the coin sewn up in my mind's eye. Again, I apologize for saying that all the time, but in my opinion, Cemvita has the feedstock issue really sewn up. And what they have done is and they have taken some wisdom that a guy out of Germany, I think, came up with in the 1940s, and he was looking at a lot of the processes and elegance associated with how each individual cell works, and how photosynthesis works, and how we're in these just like perfect little microcosms within certain areas of chaos. And he really tried to start understanding that. And he wrote a book called What is Life? His name's Schrodinger. And I can put a link to it or whatever. But then fast forward several years. Let's see, the book that I'm about to reference was published in, I can't remember, I can reference that. But Tara Karimi, who is a biologist, she looked into his work. She looked into other kind of canons of work in that realm, and came up with this idea that it's not just energy and motion. It's energy, motion, and code. And this idea is that every single cell is imbued with a certain code. It's its own little world. And if you can change that code a little bit, you can create different outputs from those little worlds. Mm-hmm. And so they got really, really good at this. And so now, and her brother Moji was a petroleum engineer. So he understood energy like it was going out of style, and he also understood how to run enterprises, build cultures, build businesses. He's kind of a sponge, it seems like to me. He's very much a future thinker, and he looks at all sorts of strategy models and design models and all of this sort of thing, and he balances that with a culture of inquiry and fun and innovation, and loves to pull in people that have very, very, very different backgrounds. So if you go to Cemvita, it's like it's going to the United Nations. Like, people are from all over the world, and they have all sorts of backgrounds, and they've done all sorts of fun things, and they're all trying to solve for this very interesting problem, which is, how do you make these tiny little machines, these tiny little worlds, produce what you want them to produce? And in their particular case, they are producing byproducts. So they're given feedstock, which was waste. It was industrial waste or agricultural waste or what have you. And then they're given that pre-feedstock, and then they turn it into byproducts that can be used to make so many different things that whenever we talk about, the energy transition, we kind of leave out. Eventually they'll be able to make plastics. They're able to make soap and surfactants, and certainly sustainable air fuel, sustainable aviation fuel, sorry. So anything that you can potentially think of that you can make palm oil with, it's crazy. What is in everything? There's palm oil in everything, and what it does is change the malleability of things. In food, it changes the mouthfeel of things. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but the clothes that you wear have it, because it changes the way things drape and fold. I can go on, but the bottom line is, they are creating this feedstock that can be put into these things instead of hydrocarbon.
Yeah, and so you have these two incredible companies focusing on these game-changing technologies to really elevate ourselves to the next level. And that's why
globe changing. They're globe changing. They're not game changing.
Universal, whatever you want to call it. That's why I'm always, I would like to say, like, excited about what the future may bring, although, whatever. But,
what, James? Tell me. No.
we're fine.
Okay.
It's just, we're living in exciting times, and I feel like it's kind of easy to forget that from time to time. But you do have these game-changing, world-changing companies focusing on some exciting stuff. And so, again, they were both announcing news last week. And, it was an exciting time at the Gallant office, for sure.
We were hopping, that's for sure.
So, talk to us a little bit about kind of the Cemvita side, in terms of the announcement that they made and all that good stuff.
So, long story short, that announcement is what we call a momentum announcement. So, with Petrobras, it was very much about a collaborative deal that was struck, a partnership. With Cemvita, it was a momentum announcement. So it was sort of a lineup of quite a few exciting things that they had been involved in. So first of all, they brought in a new head of commercialization. They have a new head of technology, brilliant people, and just absolutely incredible. And then they have a new plant. They're building out a new plant. They have created capacity that exceeds the goals that they anticipated delivering on, which already were extremely aggressive goals. I think it exceeds it by 3 years.
300%, I remember.
Yeah. It's wild. So, whenever we look at when we look at these kind of earlier stage innovation companies, you always have this sort of like, okay, but when is it going to come to pass? When is it going to be real? When is it? It's real. It's real. They can do it. And so what does that look like? It looks like, not only figuring out the whole SAF thing, but they're over there making soap and all kinds. Like it's exciting.
So we do sometimes get lost in the jargon. So SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. Right?
Sustainable Aviation Fuel. And yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. We got the Cemvita piece. We got the GA Drilling piece. Exciting times ahead. What else is there kind of on the Cemvita side that you found interesting, or what do you think that does with that momentum piece for the near term and kind of their business goals and aligning it together?
So I want to dig in a little bit on a point that you made. There are people doing amazing things, and I think that we are getting. This is a hot news cycle. We're hearing a lot of things that are that are difficult to manage and difficult to listen to on a daily basis and stay and so forth. But we have really brilliant, passionate people that are working on fixing some of these problems, some of these very some of the problems that we've seen kind of come to fruition in terms of climate change, in terms of connectivity, in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of industrial outputs, and things that maybe don't hit the mainstream news as much, but they do. We have brilliant people as a populace, we working on these things, and I think that it's really easy to get disconcerted about the future and what the future holds, and I think it's just important to remember that the industrial innovators, more so than no offense to consumers, like to people that are making coffee cups.
We're all consumers.
Yeah, we're all. But the whole thing is like, I like socks that are recycled or whatever. Or not, I don't like recycled socks. Okay, but my point is like,
what's wrong with that? Is that a no-no?
It's just.
It's just not.
It just reminds me of something. My son's always trying to recycle his socks, but it doesn't mean the same thing. I guess my point is like these big, large scale problems will be solved by brilliant people in industry, and I'm just very, very grateful that we get to work with some of them.
Yeah, and so I kind of want to reflect. It doesn't have to relate to one of our clients at all, but I was recently in Oregon for a wedding and all that good stuff. Beautiful part of the country. And I had an Uber driver, and it was like an hour drive from the Portland airport over to wherever I was staying, just east of Portland. And, he's from Iowa, moved to Portland. I'm from Houston, whatever. You have to pass some time by and have a good conversation. It was a good conversation. And he was like an old reservoir engineer, interestingly. But, I guess this is kind of like a call to action to you and us, which is, how do we help elevate that positive message, first off, and help kind of shine light on all the good things that are happening? And I bring that up in the Portland Uber driver because, I was talking to him kind of about some things pertaining to like the space industry, like what's happening here in Houston and the greater state, and some interesting stuff like, he follows it. There is an aviation, aerospace history over in Oregon and Washington area. And he didn't know anything about Jared Isaacman going up to the moon, or halfway to the moon, I should say, right? He didn't know about that mission. He didn't know about some of these other things that are going on, like Intuitive Machines, and that's a local-based Houston company, a Texas company. And it's just like, it's not getting covered in, the mainstream news. And it's a tricky little, thing to navigate in a sense, which is, this is something that we're trying to help support our clients on. We don't necessarily, are guaranteeing that you're going to get a feature or anything of that nature on CNN or, Bloomberg or anything of that nature. But, ultimately it's our goal to help shine light and help raise awareness and align their business goals with whatever we're doing. So industrial innovation doesn't necessarily kind of get that spotlight as what you were mentioning, kind of the consumer side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so much more fun, and it's so much more suitable for a video game or anything like that. And I do think that you have to start very, very early on. One of the leaders in geothermal kind of messaging and comms is I think she's a vice president or head of marketing or something at Baseload Capital,
and is a venture capital firm
that's focused on geothermal, and her name's Christina Hagestrom, and she wrote a children's book about geothermal, and we're going to be supporting World Geothermal Day on October 17th, and one of the core tenets one of the core elements of the event, which I haven't done an event like this in a while, in terms of kind of making it family friendly. Most of mine are not family friendly. The folks over at Microseismic said, no, we need to start young. We need to make sure that the space that we're creating is interesting for young people so that they can come and they can learn and they can start imagining a future with these technologies. And I think that getting people interested in those sorts of things at the earliest stages is important. And one thing I just want to say, it's a series of cartoons called In a Nutshell, and I can't pronounce it. It's like Kazoons Kazama or something. Anyway, I'll put the link in that. But that is one of the best examples of taking something very, very complex and making it simple and elegant and entertaining. And I think that we have our work ahead of us.
And that kind of reminds me of a conversation that we had with Tim McClure.
Yes. Yeah.
Where, he was talking to us about his early stages in the creation of the Don't Mess with Texas campaign, which is globally recognized and
I think it's the most successful campaign ever, period.
Yeah. And the one thing that really hit me was, to that point, the family bit and the kids bit, because it was all based off of the environmental policy of not littering, right? Mm-hmm. And he was making a campaign, and he created a music video with Stevie Ray Vaughan. He was making it kind of kid friendly, family friendly in a sense, in terms of some other components to the campaign. And he basically kind of, don't shoot me for saying this, but he was basically turning the kids against the parents.
Yes.
Of the environmental aspect of littering, and saying, Mom, Dad, don't do that. And the pressure of the kid helped enlighten the rest of the, Texas population.
I promise you that before that came out, and
we're throwing stuff all over the place.
Yeah, God rest his soul. My father, who was amazing, he would easily take a beer, drink it, and throw it up. Mm-hmm. What they would do in Texas is they wouldn't throw it on the road. They would throw it in the back of their car, and then it would just fly out. So there was like a 75% chance that it would end up on the side of the road. And it's just like, no, you cannot do that. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it became a moral imperative.
So, and what I'm getting at here, after the reflection of what you just said, and then also the conversation we had with Tim McClure and all that, it's not necessarily prolonging it and saying, you know what, our generations, we don't have it together. So we're going to just, kids, you're going to know all this stuff and you're going to figure it out. No, it's more of, we're bringing the entire family together, mm-hmm. and we're helping inform all age groups. And, you have different levers that you're pressing to add a little bit of pressure or spread a little bit better awareness on whatever it is that message is trying to hit and drive home to, mm-hmm. right? Like, mm-hmm. Is that a good way to?
I think so. And I really, if you get a chance to read Tara Karimi's book, I think it's absolutely incredible. It's incredible. And it's a heady read. But I would love to see her do a children's book. I would love it, because, I think that there's an elegance in the way that she delivers these messages that are groundbreaking. This idea that you're adding an element to, energy and mass, energy and motion, whatever it is. I always get that wrong. But you're adding this element on top of it, which is code. I think that she could explain that in a way that a child could understand it, and everybody else could understand it. And it's a message of interconnectedness. It's a message of responsibility. And it's a message of stewardship.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great way to kind of cap off this episode. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So, what are the lasting kind of thoughts? Big weeks ahead. We got a bunch of events coming through. What's the lasting remark that you want to leave?
I don't know.
Just check in next time. And, just keep.
I think, if somebody's out there and you think that you have something, and we have enterprise clients and we have startup clients, if you think that you have something that the world needs to know about, because if the world knows about it, the world can take an upgrade.
Could benefit from it.
Yes, could benefit from it. And it's in the industrial space. We would love to help share your message. Mm-hmm. I think that's the bottom line. If y'all are fun, fun clients, please. Yeah. So we got them. We right now. I will say we're lucky. We're lucky.
Maybe that's a future episode, talking about that bit and the dynamics of our clients and where we progressed and all that stuff and all that. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we'll phase it out. Brandy, always a great conversation with you. A gallant conversation at that. And until next time.
Thanks for joining this conversation with Gallant.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained meaningful insight.
If you find this entertaining or helpful, subscribe and leave us a review.
And don't forget to share this conversation with your network.
For more resources and to stay updated with Gallant insights and our amazing client portfolio companies, visit gallantculture.com.
Join us next time as we continue to explore perspectives within the industrial innovation space propelling us forward.
Until then, we ask you to stay thoughtful and curious.